This meeting is being recorded.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Oracle Laura. I am a psychic and a medium. This is the Oracle Laura Show. Today I have a very special guest with us, and he's been in the industry for 20 years in the film industry as a DOP, a director of photography, cinematographer, and a gaffer. And he has worked on several very popular shows because of his 12 years experience. So we're going to have this wonderful conversation with him and find out what shows he's worked on. He has worked on with ESPN, and he has also worked on the show The Director's Chair, and he has worked with Dick Clark Productions. So there's some really big names that he's worked with. So this is going to be very exciting, finding out what he's worked on. And he's worked on a lot of paranormal type shows, so this is going to be very spiritual. Cool to hear what he's experienced with that. So please welcome my very special guest today. It is David Navarro. Welcome, David.
How you doing? Hello. Glad to be on. Thank you for inviting me. Been a lot of, speaking of paranormal shows, been a lot of haunted places as well, shooting in hospitals and houses, because it gets into some very old houses. There was one that we did at Linda Vista Hospital out in East LA, Boyle Heights.
Oh, cool.
A show that I worked on did something there called Fact or Faked, and they were all like, nothing's ever happened there. It's just like, well, you got to be there at the right time of what's going on. There was there was one show that I was working on in particular that I always tell this story about Linda Vista, is that we were pre-rigging for a show, and we were getting up to call time, and I had gone in with my crew to one of the locations we were shooting, or one of the sets we were shooting in. And I told them, I want lights placed here, where I want them rigged. And then they went up to the roof to rig a bunch of 9 lights. And as we were getting closer to call time, I'm like, hey, is that room rigged? Is it lit? And they're like, oh no, but the points are all up. And I was like, okay, cool. So I'll just go rig the lights since they're busy up on the roof. So I walked in the room, which happened to be the nurse's locker room, which was down the hall from the morgue back in the day. So we went in there, and I looked around the room, and I go on the walk. It's like, guys, where are the points? And they're like, oh, it's where you told us they were. And I looked up, and it's just like, I'm the type of guy. It's like, I remember where I told them where to put everything. So I walked literally 10 steps from the locker room out towards the driveway or the entryway, and I looked up to the roof where they were rigging, and I'm on walkie, guys, the points aren't there. I looked, and they're not there. It's like, dude, they're there. And literally not 10 seconds later, I walk back in, and all the points are there.
Oh my God.
And I go on the walkie, and I was like, not cool, guys. And I walked out, and it's like, you're not going to believe this. And they're like all freaked out.
Do you think it was like a trick of the eye or something, or just?
No, because you're talking C-clamps that are about 12 inches big going around beam, so you can't miss them.
Yeah.
And I was very specific as to where I wanted them, so you can't miss them, because they're very in your face when they're up there, because it's a C-clamp, and you got the tape, and you have the lumber that's surrounding it to protect the beam, so it's very obvious that they're there. So, and they weren't there when I looked the first time.
Do you think maybe the spirits didn't want you there, or did they just want you to go back up there again?
Just messing around. And there was just other things that happened there. One of the makeup girls was going to the bathroom, and she was pushed through a door. And then just what else happened there? You get a vibe when you're there.
Tell me more about that push through the door thing.
Well, that she quit that night, so she left after that. So yeah. And then there's always all these stories about sound stages. There was one in particular I remember where I think it was Lacey Studios in downtown LA. There was an art guy that was working on a set, and a ball rolled on the set. and then he
Oh.
threw it out, threw it away, and then the ball came back.
Oh, that's like the
Yeah.
Changeling.
Yeah.
In that movie,
And then there
The
was
Changeling.
another time.
Oh, wow.
And there was another time. There's another girl that quit on the spot. There was another time we were working on what was the show called? It was something ER, and we're working in an actual hospital. And they were rigging lights or pre-rigging in the emergency room and downstairs, and she was walking out to go get something from the truck, and she said a guy walked in and asked where the emergency room was, and she said the guy looked pretty bad, and she's like, well, this is a non-working hospital, you got to go next door to the hospital.
Yeah.
All right. And then she said she left and the guy kept on walking, and then when she got back, she asked who she was working with, did a guy come in here and had like a head injury? And he's like, no, nobody came in here. And then she quit. It's like, no, this is like she saw him walk towards him.
Oh my God.
And then there was another time. God, there's so many stories. There's there's another one we were working at called the Gable House, which was Clark Gable's old estate in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But it went from being his estate to a rest home. But the rest home was no longer in service. So we were standing around together as a group. And I know it wasn't crazy on this one. We're standing together as a group, and this formaldehyde smell just loomed through and passed through the entryway as we were all standing there. It's like, did you guys all smell that? It's just like, oh yeah. And then the very next day at the same time, it happened again. So yeah, it was all very bizarre, but fun. You know, it's when it gets really in your face, you know, that it's kind of freaky. You know, I worked
what you
in
need
cemetery.
is like you need a crew in there, a paranormal crew like me, to sort of detect stuff and maybe get it filmed at the same time.
It seems like it's never caught when it's filming. It's always those moments like you're just standing there, you know, it's unexpected, you know, because it's never with the camera in your hand. It seems like.
So they're on. They know. They don't want to get recorded.
Something. I don't know what it is, but it's always something, you know. But how do you capture a smell? You know.
Don't. Yeah. No. You know. I don't think I've ever heard of any equipment, even in paranormal investigators. I don't know if they've got one for smell. Not that I know of.
Yeah, it was that very like an old person, old home smell, you know. And then a shot in what was it what was it? John F. Kennedy Hospital before it was torn down. There was always stuff there, always things going on there. And then even at the Ambassador Hotel before they tore that down.
Yeah, hotels get a lot of that too. We've got Hotel Vancouver here. There's a lot of stories about especially a woman in a red dress and something about an elevator, and they keep seeing her fall down the elevator shaft or something.
Yeah, I was actually working on a show in South Carolina, which supposedly is one of the most haunted cities. Charleston is one of the most haunted cities in the country.
Really?
Yeah, so they say. But I wanted to do. They had a ghost tour, and then we were there around Halloween that I wanted to do, but I didn't have time to do it, which is kind of a bummer. And with COVID, it's just like at the same time, don't want to be around that many people, you know. But I actually came up with a show that revolves around something like that in the type of show that I was working on. So that kind of was a win-win when I was down there. So
I know Yelp hired me for their Halloween staff party. I think this was like 2013. This goes back quite a while now, but I remember giving a reading to all the people that wanted a reading, and it turned out that it was nonstop all night. So they only hired me for an hour, but they ended up having to extend it and keep me for 2 hours because the lineup never ended all night. It was super long. It went from one end of the bar all the way to the other end of the room, and people were lined up all night. And it was about 100 people. I gave readings back to back, 100 people. Yeah. It was crazy. Halloween parties are great.
Yeah. It's some places like you get a vibe and it's like, you know what, I don't want to go in there, you know. So, but and sometimes when you're working, it's like you got to go in there, you got to deal with it, you know.
I've got a cool story that I think they caught on camera.
Yeah.
Well, there's two things. Two things were caught on camera, but I don't know if they ever really caught on to the second part. But I was Travel Channel had me on their show, Expedition Unknown. And it was interesting because they hired me from Vancouver, but I happened to be from the city they were hiring me for, and they didn't even know. It was really cool. So it was filmed in Nanaimo, and I was doing my tarot cards because that's what they wanted me to have. They had me bring my Ouija board, and I brought my tarot cards with me, and they had, God, it was like, it looked like about 7 different cameramen. I was surprised how many they used. They had all these different guys set up with a whole bunch of different angles. So there's at least like 5 or 7 of them. I'm pretty sure it was about 7. And I'm doing the tarot reading, and I was telling them what the card's going to be next that I'm going to flip over without looking at the cards, and all mixed up, right? They're all face down, and I'm saying what it's going to be. And then I flip it over, and that's the card. And I kept doing it, and I kept doing it over and over and over. And the guys all did this. It was really cool. They all went like this. They were behind their cameras. You know how the camera guys are? They're like this.
Yeah.
They're all huddled behind. They all went like this. They all did it at the same time. So I sort of wish I had a camera on my end to catch their reaction. It was so funny. They all looked shocked. Their mouths were hanging open. And they all went like this.
Yeah, we do that when something is like interesting is happening. It's just like you got, it's like it's a viewfinder messing with you. So you got to like actually see it.
They want
physically.
they want to confirm. But the other thing
Yeah.
that happened is they were filming the main guest. They had 2 guests. I was the second guest, or like a guest, the second lower level one. They had the main guest, and they were filming him downstairs with the host. And we're all being really quiet. We're in the corner. We're watching, right? And were they talking about a bat? There was something about a bat. And then later I found out I had a dream about it prior to being on the show. There was something about the bat. Oh, that's what it was. They had this incident with bats. And I probably shouldn't say because it was sort of a private situation with their previous episode. But anyways, let's just say it involved bats. Well, during this scene where they're filming the host talking and asking questions with this main guest, a bat flew in from outside and circled the entire room and went around them, behind them and around them, and circled in front of me. And they were going like this. This bat was going around and around. And I couldn't believe it because I thought, well, this is weird. What a weird coincidence. This bat, almost like this sign about their previous episode. And I asked them later, I said, did you guys see that bat? Did you guys see that bat? And they're like, what bat? And I'm like, you had to have seen that. And I'm sure they've caught it on camera because, like I said, it went around and behind them and then went past us and then went behind them. Like it went around 3 times. They had to have caught that on camera, but no one ever talked about it again. No one ever said anything. So I thought that was kind of freaky.
Yeah, that is freaky. It's just like, but there's always stuff that's happening though. It's just like, I just remembered another story. We were shooting in a mausoleum. And it was an old Jewish mausoleum, and one person went to the bathroom, and it's just like the bathroom is just like in a public space, it kind of door opens easily and things like that. But they went in there, and when they went to go out, the door wouldn't open. It just wouldn't open. Right?
I was holding it on the other side.
Yes, that's what they said. That's what it felt like. Someone was holding it. It's just like it wouldn't open. And then they stepped back and took a breath, and then they went to open it again, and they just opened easily.
Normally.
And then they told the caretaker the story. It's like, oh yeah, there's an old rabbi or something that here that likes to play practical jokes, So it's just like, mausoleums are rough to work in overnight. It's just like I worked in a lot of cemeteries, overnight. And it's just like sometimes you get some cemeteries that are just chill, but just sometimes you get some cemeteries that are just like, I don't want to be here because it just doesn't feel right, So, yeah, but those.
I have this really cool story about a cemetery.
Oh, that's it.
This actually happened. Was it the same day? Yeah, it was early in the afternoon before that Halloween Yelp party that hired me. Before I gave all those readings, me and my boyfriend at the time, he wanted to do a photo shoot of me at a cemetery, and he said he knew of this cemetery. So I've never been to it before. I think it was at Canby area. And so he took me to it. And it was really cool because it had really super old stones, right? And he had me go to all these different spots, and we were taking pictures. I think we took about 200 pictures.
Wow.
And then he goes, oh, go stand over by that one. It's really cool. And it was true. It was like a super huge one. It was like this old Celtic cross, really super old. And so I just walked over to it. I turn and I stand in front of it. And I'm facing him. You know, it wasn't like I looked at it or anything. I just seriously saw this big cross and big, you know, stone, and I went and stood. And after he took the pictures, I told him, I said, you know, it's really weird. I had this spirit talk to me and tell me that that's his stone and this is his name. And he was telling me all about who he wanted me to reach out to, his family members, and he wanted my help. And my boyfriend believed me because, well, he knows what I do, but also he's a medium and his mom's a medium, so he's very used to this. And he goes, well, what did the man say? And he goes, well, first he said his name was George. And then he was telling me about his family and what he wanted me to contact, who he wanted me to contact. And so he goes, so you're not going to believe this. You need to turn around. And I'm like, what? And he goes, well, look behind you. And I thought he's like, okay, there's a spirit behind me. I was getting sort of spooked. And I was like, there's going to be the guy standing behind me, right? And I turn and I'm like, what? And he goes, well, look, read the stone. And I read it. It said his name was George.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. So it's true, right? Like that's the confirmation that every psychic medium like me looks for. You know, here's the proof that you're not just imagining. Like I'm a skeptic, right? I have to rule out everything.
Yeah.
And the fact that he said his name and that was it, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, so that stuff gets freaky. It gets
So
freaky.
tell me about this. You worked on, what was it, Bigfoot Hunters? About Bigfoot?
No, that was just a short film.
Oh, okay. Because I saw a picture of you. You're with this guy that looks like Bigfoot, and so I thought maybe it might be from that show.
Yeah, it was from that show. It's just like, but that was just a short film, you know. The ones where
Bigfoot on footage.
no, it was just a guy dressed in a Bigfoot suit. It was actually a really good Bigfoot suit that they put him in. So, but I got some good photos with that. Yeah, with that, it's always fun.
What about Paranormal Files? What was that like?
Fact or Faked, or which one?
I
just did
Paranormal Files.
I don't remember that one.
Stansfeld Haunting.
No, that was a movie.
Okay.
That was shot in an old. That was an old. What was it? A Victorian house that we shot in. Didn't feel much there because we're so busy. It's just hard to sit down and it was just to get the vibe. Because when you're busy, it's just like you're not sensing anything, obviously, because you're always you're focused on other things.
Yeah.
Fact or Faked was one where the crew went out, but I did all the interviews in the interview space. So I always heard them talk about it and tell them and review the stories. So that was always interesting. Just did one called UFO Witness.
Hey.
And some of the stuff that I read that people experienced, that was crazy, you know, and got to do some very cool lighting gags with that to recreate what the people experienced.
So
that was a lot.
Crazy as in you thought that maybe they were crazy, or crazy as in you actually believed at that point that they were very convincing? What do you think? Do you think they actually experienced it?
For me to believe that we're the only ones out in the universe, which is crazy.
Right.
You know, obviously there's things
Not
out there.
all about just about us, right?
Yes, exactly. That's pretty egocentric of
we're
us
pretty
to believe.
tiny in the universe.
Yeah, exactly. In the expanse of the whole universe, it's just like there's more than just us out there, and more advanced.
Yeah.
So, but my wife has experienced something. And and I always laughed at her about it in the beginning because you're teenagers and you're smoking weed or doing whatever. It's just like, is it something that you're high and just like whoa, or just like, is it really happening?
Yeah.
But over time, as I heard other stories, and it kind of matched hers, I'm like, okay, maybe not so crazy after all.
What was it? Will she forgive you if you tell her?
If I can remember the story correctly, she was with another friend of hers. They were smoking weed in their car. This was, she was, I think, 16, 17 at the time. And she was like looked in the rear view mirror because they were in like a cul-de-sac. And there was what she thought were headlights. right? And then all of a sudden the headlights start going towards her, and then they freak out because, oh wait, what is that? And then they believe it's a UFO, so they freak out and start heading out there, or trying to get out of there, and it's following them. But as far as, she can't tell me whether it floated away or how it got away, but she got away, and she believed it was a UFO at the time. That's why I made fun of her. So, no, but she tells the story way better than I do. So, but it's just, I'm just trying to repeat from memory from the one time she told me.
That.
Yeah.
Getting back to the Victorian haunted house, I had bought an Edwardian. That's it was built in 1914, and there was a lot of strange experiences in that house, and I have a lot of witnesses for that one.
Yeah.
And it was weird because at the time when all these strange occurrences were happening, we had the bees somehow got into my house. They were circling one room, and like the whole hive was in there going into circles. But there was this experience where this is the first time I've ever experienced it. This was the first. I had what turned out, I didn't know at the time, but it was like ectoplasma, that stuff that you see when someone's giving a seance and it comes out of them, and it's like this really thick, clear liquid. And I was having that, and I thought I was just sick, and I thought, well, maybe it's the water's not healthy. I wasn't sure what was going on with me. But the thing was, it went away, and that smell that you mentioned, we had that too. We had the strange smells. But when I moved later, I bought another house, and this was like a couple times later. I bought this home, and then I bought this house. So it's a couple homes later, buy another house, and I had the same experience. I had that strange, clear, thick liquid coming out of me, and it was coming out of me from all areas. And I remember at the time my daughter was really freaked out. She didn't know what was going on with me, and she was getting scared. And we had our alarm would go off at 12 midnight every single night at the same time, and there'd be nothing disturbed, nothing moved. We'd have birds that kept attacking the house, and they kept ending up inside the walls. We had this one bird that it was dying inside the wall, and I didn't know how to get it out. And I tried to communicate with it just to make it feel better, because I didn't know how to get it out of the wall. It was seriously stuck deep inside their house.
Yeah.
All sorts of strange stuff. And I remember the alarm thing really freaked her out, because we'd be woken up in the middle of the night. We'd be like, and then we'd go look, and there'd be nothing. Nothing had been disturbed at all. Very weird thing.
Yeah, it's always interesting when things like that happen. I've been looking at properties, and some of the houses like from like 1800s, 1700s, and I'm just like, I really hesitant to buy something like that, because there's a lot of histories. A lot of people have died there over the years, so it's just like, and what kind of energy does it have? It's like, I don't know if I want to deal with that.
Well, after what you've been through, what you've witnessed through filming, right?
Yeah.
Like find an old castle, like you said, the chances of it being haunted are really high.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, when I was looking, I saw that the Changeling house was up for sale.
I love that house.
So it's like a farmhouse or something, or something, and they turned it to like something, a haunted Airbnb or something like that, where they give tours. But I'm thinking, like, there's no way I'd buy that house. No way.
I love that movie.
Too much for
That's
it.
a great movie.
Yeah. So, but there's like, it was way too expensive for one. But still, it's like something like that was no. It's just like, I don't know if I can deal with that or something like that.
Have you ever had any spiritual or paranormal, supernatural experiences yourself when you weren't filming?
Well, the one I told you, the one at Linda Vista Hospital, where, there was one time that we're shooting in San Diego, and it was a house from the, I think the 1800s. And it was a student film, and since I was the old pro, they put me in my own room upstairs, right? So, going to bed, laying down, and it's just like, a new place. I like to have music on, so just like kind of chill and have that background noise. But during the course of the night, I felt something lay next to me. And it didn't freak me out, you know. It just felt like, you know, like my daughter was laying down next to me and just cuddling up and sleeping. So it's just like, okay, then whatever, you know. I don't know what it was. The next day, they're telling a story about how the place is haunted. And there's an 8-year-old girl who walks around the house. And the girl has, hold on. The girl had drowned, and I think she was 8 or 9 years old. She had drowned, and she kind of like, you know, walks to the house. And I just looked at him, and I go, she's in my room, isn't she? And then the girl whose grandparents own the house, she just looked at me. She's like, how did you know? It's like, well, I think she visited me last night. You know, it was, you know, it's just like, that was a little confirmation. It was like kind of a little freaky. But she just like looked at me. She's like, yeah, because she like roams the halls and goes in and out of the rooms. But she mostly goes in your room. It's like, oh, gee, thanks for putting me in there. You know, so that was interesting. But
Go ahead.
But that's how that's how I thought. It felt like my daughter was laying next to me because my daughter was like around the same age at the time. That's how it was just like, it was like, okay, this isn't, I didn't know what it was, but it wasn't a freaky kind of vibe. You know, it was just like, it was almost a comforting vibe, you know, so which was weird. You know, so sometimes you just want to get the heck out of there.
Yeah.
My light just died. Hold on.
Don't say died.
Okay.
Maybe the spirits are draining it.
Yeah, exactly. I came prepared to class.
It reminded me what you were saying. It reminded me of something that happened with me. My daughter and I were having a sort of a heated argument in the kitchen in an apartment we lived in near Stanley Park. And it was really weird because it was early in the morning and normally we wouldn't be, you know, having sort of a disagreement and so heated, number one. And number two, it was like so early in the morning, we normally wouldn't be, you know, arguing in the morning. Usually you get, you know, tired or cranky at night, you might argue. So we're sitting there in the kitchen, we're arguing, and we stopped and I just sort of walked away. It's like, okay, whatever, it's gonna end the conversation here. I went to my office and she's still in the kitchen. I'm in my bedroom office and there's a window that, you know, it's like this, like she's in the kitchen, there's a window here. I'm in my office, which is right beside it. And there's a window facing this direction. So we could both see the same scenery from our angle. And I see this body person fly down past my window. We're on the 13th floor. And it was really interesting because they were superstitious when they built the building. So they wouldn't put number 4, you know, we're at 14, but it's really the 13th floor. In the elevator, it says 12, 14. So we live on that floor. Actually, sorry, my mistake. We're on a different floor. The building was 13 floors.
Yeah.
This guy from the top floor, we later found out it was from the top floor. So from the 13th floor, he plummets right past our window. And it freaked me out. And I ran to her and I go, did you see that? She goes, did you see that? And I'm like, okay, good. We both saw it. And we found out later he had killed himself. The guy that lived there on the 13th floor falls off the balcony to his death. And
while you were there, or is this? Oh, wow.
And then later, it was because his wife had cancer and he was really tired with looking after her and they were very stressed and he was very emotional. So he ended his life. She couldn't handle the fact that he took his life, and because of her, so she drowns herself in the bathtub in that apartment shortly after that.
Wow.
So a little bit time goes by. I think it was about maybe a week or so later. I'm laying in bed, but I've got a futon and it's on the floor. So there's nothing that can, you know, my blanket's going to stay put because it's right on top of me and I'm on the floor kind of thing, right? I'm sleeping In the middle of the night, close to morning, I felt my blanket being pulled off me. And it freaked me out. And so the next night I was scared. I told my daughter about it, and I'm very cautious about what's going to happen to me this night. I'm wondering if it's going to happen again, and it does. This time I wake up, I open my eyes, and I pretend to be still asleep. I don't move, and I look and I see it being pulled off me. And like I said, I'm on a futon on the floor. It goes from my neck, the blanket, all the way down to my toes. It's being pulled all the way off me. And then the spirit tells me his name. And he said, Walter. And I thought, well, that sounds like a really old-fashioned name. Maybe it's the guy that killed himself. So I asked him, you know, is that you? And he wouldn't answer me. And then he tells me about a week or so later, his spirit tells me to go to a certain location downtown and talk to a certain man. I'm talking to that man, and then I walk away. And then I get home and he goes, go talk to that man again. And I'm like, what? So I go another day, I go talk to that man. He's still in the same spot. And he introduces himself to me. We hit it off. We're talking for a long time. And he tells me his name. Guess what his name is?
Walter.
Walter. So I'm convinced that that spirit was him.
Ah. So you were talking to yourself at the corner?
Well, I was talking to the guy that I met.
Okay.
And yeah, like he's real, like he's a real person,
Okay.
still alive to this day, right?
Okay.
But yeah, freaky stuff.
Yeah, it's always interesting. It's always interesting the stuff we run into.
So of all, you've got 20 years behind you, all this like film industry, all these shows you've worked on. What would you say was your best one? If you had to pick one, what one did you really love, or what one had a really great experience with the maybe you met the actor who starred the main character, anything?
They're all interesting. They all have something special. They all offer something different creatively, so it's hard to say which one is my favorite.
Okay, well, let's say from the director's chair, would you have, say, a favorite experience of an actor from that?
Well, the director's chair is just like, I mean, we interviewed Tarantino, Carpenter, Coppola, Barbra Streisand, Michael Mann, who else?
Barbra Streisand, I've had a lot of dreams about her. What was she like?
Interesting. Interesting. She had her own what is it? Spiritual advisor with her.
Oh.
On the day. Yeah. So that was interesting.
Is that why I've had all these premonition dreams about her? She's sort of connected to the spiritual realm.
Probably, but that was just a rough day. That one, just in lighting and time and space. So, but learning a lot of patience is key, which I don't always have.
No.
No. But patience is key in a lot of instances. And in terms of doing the director's chair, since I'm trying to advance to become a director, that was just like a master class, sitting with what at the time, I think we did 10 of the world's best directors, and just listening to their stories and listening to their experiences and listening to what they experienced starting out, and just seeing how what you're trying to do parallels what they did. I remember when I was shooting my first big project I was being paid to do, and we were filming Tarantino, and he was talking about how when he was starting out on some stuff, how he felt like, a fraud, and how he was freaking out at certain points, and how he was just trying to wing it as he went through. And a lot of things that he was talking about, I was feeling at the same time. So I was thinking to myself, if he's feeling like this and I'm feeling like this, then I'm in good company, because I'm not wrong in my emotions. as to how I'm approaching it.
Yeah, it's reassuring. Yeah.
Yes, very reassuring. You know, and after that, it was just like I was able to go full speed and just attack, the story as I thought it should be, and not worry about, what other people thought, and just go with my gut on a lot of it, and it worked. So, and it helped a lot.
Was there a couple movies that you were producing as well? I thought I saw that on your IMDb page.
Yeah, I'm actually, there are several, because I get on there as producer because I'm able to bring crew on, negotiate rates, and I bring on my equipment and camera equipment, so I'm able to log on as a producer. There's a couple of projects that I am trying to get produced. There's a wrestling film, and I also got the life story rights to Matilda the Hun, who was a wrestler on Glow. And back in the day, she was Queen Kong. We got her story rights. I'm writing that script, and then I have another film called UFO Phil, which is a mockumentary, which I'm trying to find financing for. And then I also have several TV shows that I'm working with some of the original Glow Girls to get done. So a lot of projects on the table. It's always a matter of
really good ones though. They're very interesting. I like that.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun. But the hardest part is just finding money and then someone say yes. So,
you hear that, people out there?
Yeah, it's hard to find money. And I'm actually shooting and directing one that we're going to shoot on film. We're going to go on Super 8mm. It's a short film. This one is it's a paranormal. The short is called Nim. It's a story of a young Celtic girl who is I don't want to give away the ending.
Yeah, don't.
Well, no. It's just it's a fun little story, and it's just like a little, gonna give it the festival round and focus on making it 10 minutes and under. But we're gonna plan on shooting that in March, and I'm doing some actual film tests with the camera this weekend to see how it's gonna look and if it's gonna work for film. Yeah.
What would you like to say to all those inspiring people out there that want to become a director? All those.
Just do it. Just do it. I mean, it doesn't.
Dreams and goals of being in the film industry, and they want to become you. What would you like to?
Don't become me. Be better. As I'm always trying to be better and learning.
Well, let's just say you're inspiring them, right?
Yeah, I try to be, but sometimes
I'm out. What advice would you give them?
Huh?
What
advice would I give them? Watch movies, good and bad. Watch if you're gonna do something in the genre, watch that genre, good and bad.
Know what you don't want to be, as well as what you do want to be.
Exactly. Read. Leave your ego at the door, because there's nothing more soul crushing, and than filmmaking, because it could be a great success or it could be a miserable failure.
That's true.
So just leave the ego at the door, and if you get it done and from script to screen, know that that you're one of the few who did it, and be proud of it, and take everything you learn from it and be better the next go around.
Great.
Learn from your mistakes. Yeah.
Where's the best place that they can find out more about you?
IMDb, I guess. I mean, because I try to keep that up to date, because I know when I work with people, when I apply to things, they'll look me up. That's the first place they'll go. Yeah. And then that also with that, they're able to see the links to everyone else I've worked with on there as well.
You have such a history on there. I looked at your list, and you've done so much. It's really impressive.
Yeah, that's not even the whole list.
Oh, really? There's more.
Well, there's things that don't wind up on there, and especially early in the careers, a lot of things don't wind up there. Music videos don't wind up there. Commercials don't wind up on there.
Yeah, that's true. Commercials don't. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I try to keep it up to date. But one thing I always try to do is just keep working, keep working. I mean, even during the pandemic, I was working, you know, pulling out an old short and recutting it, writing, developing projects. It's just like, I just don't stop, you know, and I always keep moving forward.
Well, I want to really thank you for being on my show today. We've been
Thank you
talking
for having
to
me.
David Navarro.
Ghost stories, that's fun.
Those were fun. I want to really thank you
Yeah.
for sharing those with us. Those were great stories. I love them.
Yeah. Again, you don't always get to share them, and just sometimes it's just like, and for the kindred spirit, it's always fun.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Take care out there.
Bye.
Bye.